Homelessness 2.0, day 85. Ooh, arm's still sore. I don't feel nearly as bad as I did yesterday. Oh my god. Yesterday was bad. Like, it was terrible. I felt like just 100% garbage yesterday. It was just awful. It was like, the thing about illness, and I mean, obviously, this is one reason why immunocompromised people, one second. This is why immunocompromised people often can't get the vaccine. Because it's so bad sometimes that it can potentially kill them. Like, I would say yesterday was actually worse than any singular day when I was sick 2 weeks ago. Shit, I should have been doing the water already, but whatever. I guess I'll just come in here, turn on the fan, and let that roll, if you will. So I would say yesterday I felt worse than any singular day than when I was sick. But now I feel mostly fine. Like, it was about a 36-hour period of ass kickery. And then the symptoms and everything just started to wane really quickly. Like, once I reached a certain point, it kind of stayed there for a while. And then it was like it slowly ramped up and then picked up real fast, stayed up there a whole lot, it stayed up there for a while, and then when it started dropping, it ended up dropping real quickly again. It's this weird plateau, exponential growth and drop thing. It was really, really weird. I didn't feel any of that the second time I got the shot. The second time I never got sick. And I mean, one might say, well, it sounds like they gave you COVID. I mean, didn't give me COVID, because if they'd given me COVID, I would still be experiencing all the same symptoms in one way or another. When I got COVID, because I can't verify it, but in all likelihood it was, because I mean, when it's the most prominent illness, chances are you're going to get it. If you're going to get anything. I mean, we've all but eradicated the flu. I'm still in recovery for it. I mean, I'm still in recovery from when I was sick 2 weeks ago. Nevertheless, I don't even know what I was saying. Well, okay, with what I feel to be with at least 90% certainty that I had COVID 2 weeks ago, it was a relatively similar ramp up. It was, I feel the tickle. The next day, I'm starting to feel the symptoms. Well, actually, no. The ramp up wasn't even that. It took like a whole day for me to really feel the symptoms and stuff after the tickle the day before. And then like the first day after the tickle in the back of the throat and everything, I was experiencing some symptoms, but they weren't crazy bad or anything. The malaise was setting in and whatnot. But then, like, the second day was when it was bad. That was when I was really feeling all of it. At least to my recollection. And so, and again, the symptoms might be somewhat similar, but they've dissipated really quickly too. And now, one who is especially anti-vaccine would probably say something along the lines that, oh, well, it sounds like when you got COVID, it gave you the antibodies so that getting it from the vaccine made you more resilient or blah, 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 and that the vaccine really didn't do that much. Well, I was supposed to have gotten my booster in the process of the time that I was sick. I mean, I was supposed to get the booster on the 13th. That was the first day I was able to get it. But you don't want to get the booster while you're sick. Because if I had experienced that, what I had just experienced the last 2 days, day and a half really, it probably would have landed me in the fucking hospital. And that's not where you want to be. I mean, you don't want that outcome. That's just not an outcome that you want. And that's also part of the purpose of getting boosters and vaccines and the like, is so that you don't end up in the hospital. It's so that, yeah, you might experience symptoms. You might not. Yeah, this fucking thing. Or your symptoms might be, relatively inconsequential. I was out of commission for a day when I got my second shot. Oops. But it wasn't as bad the first time around either. I mean, hell, for all I know, the reason that I was so out of commission this time around was because I was made weaker. It may have been irresponsible of me to get the booster so soon after being sick. In all likelihood, it was. And, that's one of the things about vaccine misinformation and similar, is that people will come up with all kinds of causal links between one thing and another. And what they don't do, well, I mean, it's because of what they're doing and because of what they're not doing and all that, is that they're not being accurate with the information. That's why it's misinformation. And what I've noticed, especially about the anti-vax crowd, is that, and the funny thing is, it's like, there's this video that was put out by Phil DeFranco on his channel. It's a short, and he puts it out on TikTok as well. Any of the shorts that he puts out on YouTube, he'll put it up on TikTok as well, because, diversify and all that stuff. And in the video, he was talking about flat earthers and why flat earthers believe what they believe. Despite all the mounds of evidence that we have that obviously shows that the earth is not flat. The conspiracy theorists try to debunk it however they can, but they don't debunk it really with facts. They try to debunk it with any information that sows doubt. Because they doubt the experts, they doubt the governments, etc., etc. They doubt anybody who is in a position of power, effectively. And in so doing, it's not that they're there providing information. They're there basically saying, I don't trust the sources. And so they're trying to find something else. And that seems to be also the case with anybody who's in the anti-vax camp, especially the anti-mandate camp. They don't trust the government. And it's effectively founded upon so many things. Now, some of these things are valid. Some of this distrust is valid. If you were to perpetually trust the government every time, or if somebody told you to, that would be ill-advised. But I guess like right now, the CDC guidelines are absolute fucking stupid. And one of the things about the anti-vax crowd is that they're like, well, see, the CDC had no credibility. It's like, just because they changed into a position at a later date that's fucking stupid doesn't necessarily mean that the advice that they had in the past was also is now invalidated. You know, in that case, it's not like science. Because we all, like, anybody who has a fucking brain knows that the new CDC guidelines are fucking stupid. They're trash. But the previous guidelines weren't trash. The previous guidelines were effective. So what it does is those who already had a distrust for the government or the CDC or what have you, they have now been emboldened and basically saying, we've been right this whole time. And that ain't how it works, folks. You ain't been right this whole time. A stopped clock is right twice a day. And anybody who has been anti-vax this whole time, who is, looking at this whole thing, and then they're saying, we're right. Well, you're only right now. But you weren't right before. You're a fucking broken ass stopped clock. And you're only right every now and then because of the law of probability, basically. It's the same things with people who predict airplane crashes. They don't predict them. Because if they were able to predict them, they would be able to predict all of them. Or at least enough of them to really warrant, an inquiry and then potentially an investigation. I don't know why I did that, but and I know you might be looking at my behavior throughout some of these videos and be like, well, no wonder you got sick, or you're probably one of the reasons people get sick, blah, blah, blah. When I'm in the house, I'm not as conscientious about how I cough. I'll just cough, whatever. But when I'm out and about, I'm aware of the fact that there are other people around me, and so I do things to help. If I need to cough, even if I have a mask on, I will do this. I will cough into my shirt. I don't do this shit because it's not as effective. I'm going to cough into my shirt because that is more effective. Ooh, that felt good. We get vaccines to mitigate the possibility that it will spread or that it will cause problems, that it will cause worse problems. And yeah, Omicron is less affected by the vaccine. That's unfortunate. But we also know that the vaccine helps to prevent severity. Now, one of the other talking points that a lot of people will bring up is, what about obese people? Well, we have an obesity epidemic in this country. We have had one for a long time. It was ramped up in the 80s during the anti-fat movement. which coincidentally is when and where corn subsidies happened, and high fructose corn syrup started proliferating and was basically inserted into fucking everything. And if you want to know about high fructose corn syrup, well, it's in things like bread. I mean, why would you need to put fucking high fructose corn syrup in fucking bread? There's no point. It's in a lot of processed foods. Now, one might say, why are we eating so much processed food? Well, processed foods are quick and easy. We live in a society that promotes the grind of getting up early, going to work, working, hustling, busting your ass, blah, blah, blah. So we get our coffee, and I don't care if you think you want your coffee black, the vast majority of people put sugar in their coffee. And when you live a life like that, you're gonna often grab something that doesn't take you time to prepare. And so it's gonna most likely be something processed. Now, it's been 40 years. Fuck. Why do I have to be so old? Because I mean, fucking noodles. And these damn things don't have a lot of nutritional value in them. I mean, sure, there's a little bit of calcium and iron and potassium. There's 10 grams of protein, which is great, but there's 62 carbohydrates, which has the same caloric count. It's the same caloric density per gram as protein. And it's 19 grams of fat. Now, fat isn't inherently bad. It depends on the type of fat. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats are good. Saturated fats depends, it seems. But generally speaking, they're typically better than an equal caloric count of sugars or carbohydrates. And the reason is, and especially because of the way your body works, carbohydrates are easier to digest. We have an enzyme in our mouth called amylose. I believe it's amylose. It might be the amylase. I can't ever remember. It's amylase. Because the ose, like dextrose, sucrose, amylose, lactose, those are the sugars. Well, amylase is produced and is in your saliva. And so you immediately start to digest stuff in your mouth. Not only because you're chewing it and you're breaking it down, because that's a form of digestion, but then you're breaking it down chemically inside your mouth before it even gets to your stomach. And so by the time it does get to your stomach, it's already semi-broken down to a point, to a chemical point. So it's going to break down a lot faster once it gets into the stomach, and thus it's going to absorb into your system. And that makes sense, you know, when it comes to human physiology and biology and evolution, because it was necessary for something like that. You know, when you're mostly going to be living off of the land, you're going to be running around and shit. That makes sense. Physiologically speaking, evolution, it makes sense. But then, you know, several 100,000 years later, you're just sitting at your desk for 9 hours a day. You're not doing what has been done. So you don't need the same type of calories. And you definitely don't need them in the quantity that was needed 200,000 years ago, what have you. Or hell, even 20,000 years ago. Barely even 200-300 years ago. We've changed society's behavior so drastically just in the last couple hundred years. And evolution cannot catch up to that. Not quickly enough, because it takes a long time. We need the mutations. We need the mutations to be able to survive, and then we need the mutations to be able to thrive. I don't remember what this had to do with vaccines and conspiracies and shit, but whatever. But speaking of food, I gotta go back to the store soon. I gotta pick up a couple of other extra things because I'm gonna end up staying here for at least another month, possibly another 2. Depends. I gotta work something out with. There's something that's in the books that might be beneficial, but I'm not gonna talk about it just yet until it's pretty much settled. But I at least know that I'll be here for February, so there's that. So yeah, and then I gotta go to the storage because since I'm gonna be here for another month, I gotta go get like my razor stuff. I've got to start looking for jobs because I got to try and stick around in one capacity or another until, I mean, not until, but I mean, because it's like, hey, I'm going to stick around until August. And now I can't go to school because I only stuck around until August. I've got to try and stick around at least for the next couple years. At least the next year, maybe year and a half. I still want the opportunity to move to Buffalo, but I might approach it differently. Because I still want to go up there for the next solar eclipse. My hope is to actually finally fucking see one in full. I got to see a partial. I got to experience it too. Like I was out and about. I walked. Like I went outside. I walked to Target. I bought a couple of things. I made a pinhole camera. I even looked inside. It wasn't great, but I could see it. I showed a couple other guys at the sober living that I was at. Target was only like, I want to say like half a mile from where I was living, maybe a little longer. And then there was a lady outside of the Target who had a pair of solar eclipse glasses. I was like, oh, yeah, totally. And I looked up and it was awesome. And it felt weird. Like, it was a partial, because like the closest location to where the full eclipse, solar eclipse was up in Oregon. And I'm way in the southern end of, not super southern, but I'm in the southern end of California. And I want to say like around here, I would say we had approximately like 30 to 40% coverage. I can't really remember as much. It was like literally a few months after I got out of jail. Actually, not even that. I think it was literally within the month. And like just that experience was fascinating, and I want to try to get the full experience. And while there are other places, oh, that felt good. While there are other places that are closer, for me, Buffalo felt like a better sort of, location. Because, like, if, let's say I stayed out there for like a month, right? Solar eclipse happens literally in approximately like 11 minutes. But booking it and everything is really, booking it ahead of time is really important. And then, being able to drive out to the location and doing all that stuff. So you want to at least be there a couple of days ahead of time. And, I mean, you're probably going to have to book at least about a year ahead of time as well. And, I mean, that's going to be difficult for me because, generally speaking, it's virtually impossible for me to be able to do anything that far in advance. Just because of the way my life is and has been. I mean, longest job I've ever had was 5 years as a security guard. And it wasn't even financially stable. It was at first until I had to get a car. And sure, I could have gotten another car, but they bait and switched my ass, which sucks. And I was naive and I was, impatient and desperate. Check to see if this damn thing is still running. But yeah, I mean, like, so I've got those two goals. I've got the goal of going to school, trying to finish up, at least talking to the right people to see, maybe what the next steps are, what the next steps could be. What my options might be. And then potentially going to see an eclipse. I don't know. There might be a point, good or bad, I don't know, in the future where the title of this series changes. I don't know. Obviously, I hope it changes for the better. And it might change again. And it could change for the worse or it could change for the better depending on the circumstances. I don't know. And I don't know how long this is going to keep going. If the title of the series changes, who fucking knows? I mean, I don't know. One thing it seems as though is I've got to just keep doing this every day. I used to have a vlog series back before I moved to LA. And I ended up doing it for about a month, maybe. Didn't last as long as I tried. I mean, I tried, but it didn't last that long. And then ended up deleting them all. It was on another channel, another name and everything. But this one, I'm not gonna delete these. This is for the record, if you will. And I'm just gonna keep uploading shit, and I'm not gonna get any views. I know. Because I'm not playing the game. I'm not incorporating social media. I'm not incorporating search engine optimization, tags, or any of that shit. Because it's just more work than I want to do. I don't care enough about all of that. I mean, of course, do I want more views? Do I want more people to know? Yeah, sure. But it's whatever. This would have worked 10 years ago. I was getting more views 10 years ago because of the way that the algorithm worked back 10 years ago on YouTube. Actually, it was 11 years ago technically. Well, 10. here. I started November 2011. But anyway, so I'm gonna stick around here for the day. I'm gonna do some laundry. I gotta cook up those chicken leg meats so that they can be prepped for foodstuffs later. And I might go to the store today. I might not. That Food for Less had no strikes on it. I mean, that place was fucking packed. Everything was on the shelves. I don't know what the situation is. I'll check on them later. But I just don't like the fact that we can't seem to get our shit together as a society and pay people better. Like, all we really want, that's all the average person wants, is just to make more money so that they don't have to worry about when the next meal's coming, if they're going to be able to pay their rent, or if they're going to have to choose between food and the fucking lights. You know, it's fucked up. It really is. The sheer fact that that's such a problem. And then there are people out there who seem to think, very falsely, that if we raise the minimum wage, prices are going to go up. Well, fucking newsflash, the minimum wage hasn't gone up in over, I think it's close to 20 years now. It's been $7.25 for at least 10 years. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 for at least a decade, close to 2 decades. And prices have gone up anyway. So that line of reasoning is horseshit. Inflation exploded in the last year, so it wasn't associated with wages. I wonder what it might be. Pay people more. Because there are plenty of circumstances, there are plenty of examples, real world right now, in this world, in other countries where they have better wages, they have massive unions for even the lowest of jobs. Fuck all that, like unskilled labor and shit. I'm sorry. If you've worked any minimum wage job, you know that skill of some kind is involved. You gotta fucking train people too. You know, I got training for like a week. I don't feel like that training was enough when I was working at iHeart. My onboarding was like close to the same amount of time. No, stop making excuses for the people who have money. Stop making excuses for the people who supposedly have job creation in mind. They don't have job creation. And just because there are more jobs doesn't mean the jobs are of any good quality. You know, if somebody makes a job that has 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week, well, that's 70 hours in a week. That's not a job. I'm sorry, it's fucking not. That's a waste of fucking time. That's what it is. But it looks good on paper because we're creating jobs. No, you're not fucking creating jobs. And 70% of the days, or 70% of the week, is occupied by people who are not high schoolers. So those people are adults who have bills and families and needs that are getting shafted despite people being ignorant as fuck and saying that, well, minimum wage jobs are for high schoolers. Well, again, 70% of the week, high schoolers can't fucking work. So no, they're not. They're for adults. Again, stop making excuses for the rich people. You're not going to become a billionaire. You're not. Stop thinking you will be. Someday I might be rich, and then people like me better watch their step. So saith Philip J. Fry. And so saith anybody else who steps up to bat for the fucking billionaires. There's no ethical billionaire. Sorry. Doesn't work that way. And by you perpetuating all these myths, you're doing a disservice not just to others, but to yourself too. You could be helping to improve our society by looking at reality and understanding it, and then talking to people about that, instead of perpetuating bullshit. Stop perpetuating bullshit, please. I'm pretty much done with my soup. I'm gonna make a list of stuff I need to get from the store. And then I'm going to start laundry at some point. And we'll see what kind of jobs are available, I guess. I don't know. Have fun.